Whatever makes you comfortable.
All right, I'll look at you then.
Good evening and welcome to our back to school special. We are here today with a face that you might know. He is an internet sensation, TikTok, Instagram, all over the place. He says he is more than a teacher. Welcome Berhanu Dallas from Georgia joining us. He is a high school teacher. He teaches ninth through 12th grade. Father of three, got a couple of twins out there. But most of all, you are an educator and seem to enjoy that from what we can see. You're on there, you make it funny, you keep it entertaining. And so we're excited to have you. Tell us
Got
a
you.
little bit about yourself.
Thanks so much for having me. Again, as she said, I've been educated for this is actually year 8. It took me a while to do the math, but this is year 8 of being a marketing teacher. I got into teaching 8 years ago as just a career change. One of my mentors said, "I think you'd be a good teacher." I was working in a children's hospital. Loved kids, but I wanted something stable, something I could really, see kids and for a longer period of time and make an impact. So pretty much 8 years later, here we are. We decided to start an Instagram page, just showing a side of teaching that teachers love teaching and that students love being in the classroom. And it just blew up. And so we're here we are. It's kind of everything in a nutshell.
Yeah, I somebody sent me one of your videos, and one of our main pillars is changing perceptions, change
Got
perception.
you. Yeah, absolutely.
Um, and we're always looking for ways to really highlight the good things that are happening in our community. You don't have to look far to find out negative stuff. And
Yeah,
so
very true.
someone sent me one of your videos, and I often joke about names, right? I'm a nurse, and I was a pediatric nurse for a really, really long time, and I've had the names like Pepsi and Cola for the twins, and
Okay.
Absidy, ABCDE, and
Okay.
Dasher with the dash, the actual dash in there. And it was
Okay.
so one of those funny videos that someone sent me,
With the
and
names.
with the names, and it was just so engaging, and it was so funny, and it was so cute to see
Yeah.
um just the camaraderie that you have with your students. So I kind of went down this rabbit hole of looking at a bunch of your videos, and then I kind of just reached out. So here we are. That
Here
was
we
back
are.
in March,
Yeah.
that we had our initial conversation. But before we went live, we were talking a little bit, and I asked you, about school and upbringing, parents. Did you know you always wanted to be a teacher? So first, start with just telling us a little bit about life as a child and upbringing.
Okay, we're going back to the beginning.
We're gonna
Gotcha.
go back to the beginning. Let's do that.
So it's funny because, being an educator, being a teacher, most people think that, you were just this A+ student that loved school and got along with the teachers. And, especially when you see our page and you see how I present myself and what to the students. And that's the complete difference, a different story. So I grew up in a Black neighborhood, but
Mhm.
my mom, she wanted us to go to a better school system. So back in the day, we had something called the Magnet program, which
Mhm.
basically took people from Black neighborhoods, and we caught a bus to go to basically a better school system.
Mhm.
So it was good for me, but unfortunately, just school just was not. I just was not that good student. My sisters, we would go to award ceremonies. They would dean's list, straight A's, AB honor roll, and the only thing I would go home with was perfect attendance. That was it. I was there every day, but I didn't like school, and
But you kept going, so that says something.
I did because my mom made me keep going, and she made sure that I didn't fit in because it's I'm not so much about black white, but when you're at a school like that and you're one of the few black students,
Mhm.
you just don't you're not it's like you can't fit in there.
Mhm.
It's for me. Some people it worked, but for me, I just didn't fit in. So I just didn't like school. Didn't really have a lot of friends. I was actually really bad. So funny story is every day, my mom would get a phone call. She would be at the school every single day.
Uh-huh.
Getting home, she would whoop me. My dad would whoop me. Go back the next day. The call again. Hey, Mrs. Dallas, Berhanu has farted on somebody. Berhanu is playing pranks. Berhanu is not doing his work. He's not turning work in, and that was pretty much kindergarten all the way till middle school.
Mhm.
I struggled with reading, so I just didn't like school. Didn't like reading. I liked science because
Mhm.
I'm one of those learners where I like to touch and see and get engaged. But it just back then it wasn't like that.
Mhm.
Hated math,
Mhm.
loved PE, and loved lunch. So if you could get an A in lunch, I would have all A. I would have an A if you could get a grade in lunch. Did really well in PE, but that was it. I was just a
So
very
were you
active
one of
kid.
those kids that went to like multiple lunch sessions when you were supposed to be in class,
You
or?
know, back then it was real strict, so not really. Elementary and middle grade school, you would just everyone go together. But
Mm,
I would always be on silent lunch for something. Just for something, talking about a teacher. You just as a boy, you just crave a lot of attention.
yeah.
And because there were so many kids in my house, my four sisters, I didn't get a lot of attention. I was the only boy, and everything was about the girls. So don't get attention at home, so you go to school to get that attention. But unfortunately, it just didn't work out. Stayed in trouble. Nothing, I was all my teachers would always say he's very respectful. If he really would apply himself, he could be a better student. He just needs to focus, but he's so respectful because my parents, yes ma'am, no ma'am, grew up in a lot of like a
Mm,
respectful atmosphere. I just did not like school, so for me it was a place to get attention. So I would do whatever I could do to get attention. And then got to high school,
mhm.
and then probably eighth grade the bullying started
Uh-oh.
just because I didn't read very well. When you go to a predominantly white school, they don't care so much about fashion. So when I got to, I remember my freshman year of high school, I went to an all black school. So if you come from that atmosphere where nobody cares how they dress, and you go to a all black school where it's a fashion show every day, I went to that thinking the same. And it was the worst experience of my life. Every day was bullied.
Yeah.
Every day would go from I would not go to lunch. I would literally go into the bathroom and I would sit there every day for a whole year, or go to the library. Yeah, it was that bad. They would pick on me in the hallways, trip me, talk about me. If I went to the lunchroom, they
Mm,
would gang around me, call those Jonas sessions, and just talk about me. So I remember I went home and I said, "Ma, I can't do this. I need to go to a different school." So we found another school for me to go to, and I'm telling this story because when I got to that schools, again, the same thing. I wasn't cool enough for the black kids, but I wasn't white enough for the white kids. So I just didn't find a place to fit.
mhm.
I just couldn't find a group of friends. Again, been struggled with reading, struggled with math. I just struggled in high school. I didn't like it. Didn't like the whole school aspect.
Mm.
So, but one thing my mom always told me is you're going to go to college. I don't care what you do, but you're going to go to college.
Okay.
So graduated high school with like a 2.5, nothing really, nothing really extraordinary. My sisters graduated with honors. They got scholarships to go to go to school. I got into college. Basically, I kind of snuck into college because applied my senior year in October,
Mm, mm,
first semester, and got accepted. My
mm.
second semester, I failed a math class, so did not take 4 years of 4 years of high school math, but somehow they didn't catch it. So I kind of got in through the back door.
Okay.
Yeah, and from there, I guess I started seeing differently and realizing like I have a great opportunity here. Um, so I graduated. It took me 6 years to
Mhm.
graduate, and it was a surprise to everybody because I was never a good student. I graduated with a 3.0,
Okay.
and some years later did a couple of jobs here, and then 6 years later I became a teacher. So that's kind of how I got into it. But I do think that teachers, just from my perspective, that some of the best teachers are the ones that struggled in school because you go with a mindset to help when you see somebody like yourself in the neighborhood that I teach in.
And that's a great segue to my question because
Yeah.
I took a bunch of notes. Like I wrote down a
Oh
bunch
yeah,
of things that you
yeah.
were saying.
I tried to abbreviate because it's so
No,
much
no,
more
no.
than that.
It was great because you said you felt like you lacked attention at home. The girls were the good students. You described yourself as bad. you always had silent lunch. You um needed to focus. You weren't really focused. You didn't like school. You didn't read well. You were bullied. You didn't fit in. Took you 6 years to graduate from college, and yet you sit here with me, an educator. Tell me how that has influenced how you see and perceive your students, and how you got to the point where you are more than a teacher.
I
I'm
got
going
you.
to ask you to define that in a minute, but I want you to tell me, when someone said you should be a teacher, what compelled you to do that after feeling all of these things about school?
Well, when they first told me to be a teacher, I laughed because it's like, I'm the least person to go into a classroom and teach anybody. Yeah, but again, he was my mentor, someone I really respect. So I substituted for a year first,
Okay.
and that was interesting. It wasn't, substitute teachers, they have this reputation that you can just kind of run over them.
Mm,
But I can't tell you why it worked. But when I walked into that classroom, when I substituted for that year, I just knew that this is something I want to do. And I probably had a few experience. I could never teach middle school. I did that once, and I said I can't teach middle school. Elementary, I'm 6'4", so the kids were looking up and they were kind of scared. So everybody was quiet. But when I substituted in high school, I said this is what I want to do. So when I got to the school I'm at now, um, and we're a Title I school, so we're in an area with low income.
mhm,
I see myself everywhere. I see that Berhanu Dallas I can look in these students' faces. And I can see the ones that don't think highly of themselves, the ones that are socially awkward, the ones that can't read, the ones that don't believe in themselves, the ones that are looking for attention.
mhm,
And the thing is, once you can identify what the need is, then you can feel it in the classroom.
mhm.
My need was attention. The teacher doesn't give it to me, so I keep doing it. If
Right.
my kids want attention, I give them the attention they want without stopping the flow of teaching.
Mm,
So if a student likes attention, I'll give that person responsibility in the class. You're
mhm,
responsible for passing the papers out. You're responsible for taking a note to the front office,
mm,
and that's enough for them. So automatically, that behavior problem is taken care of. If a
mm,
student doesn't believe in themselves, one thing I love to do the first of the year when my semester starts, we do positive thinking. Uh,
mhm.
you can call them affirmations, worksheet activities to get them thinking in a positive way about themselves.
Okay.
And the thing about teaching, if they know you care about them and they know that you're there for them, then you have somebody that is literally they're sealed in. They'll listen to whatever you say.
Mm,
And when I go into that classroom, I go in with the mindset of I remember what it was like being in this seat. I remember how much I hated school. I remember how much I didn't believe in myself. I remember getting straight C's. And I'll be honest, I'll say, look, some of you kids are A students, some of you are B students, and some of you are C students. You don't need to be A student to be successful.
right.
Look at Mr. Dallas. I was a C plus student. And I shared it. I couldn't read very well. I hated school, but look at me. And it gives them hope because we're taught that you have to have a 4.0 to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, to be a millionaire. You have to love school to be successful. And I don't know why we're taught that as kids, but it's very false.
Mm,
What I know is as long as you believe in yourself and you have a vision and a goal for yourself, and you just work hard. You can be a 2.0 student. You can go to college. You can graduate, and you could be a you could be a very successful whatever career that you want. So seeing myself in those students.
absolutely. I can't. I mean, I agree with you. I've shared before. I tell people all the time. I got a GED. I didn't graduate from high school. And it doesn't. Your trajectory ultimately ends up being yours to determine in so many ways. And of course, we know that there's lots of other factors out there that kind of contribute to that, but you can get to where you want to be if you're willing to work at it.
Absolutely,
Self-esteem, what the list that I read off to you, well, repeat it back to you because it's your list. says to me that there were probably some real issues with self-esteem growing up, and being in environments where you didn't see yourself. You know, representation matters. You said you're in a Title I school, low income school. I'm assuming that most of your students likely look like you.
Yep.
Um, was it important for you to do that?
Yes, absolutely. I could go teach anywhere. I could go to any district. I can go to a district that has a median income of 140,000. I could, but to me, that's not. It's not. I want to say challenging, but I don't feel like those kids need what I have, because what I have is I was at the bottom, and it's not that I worked hard to get to the top, but it's I believed, right? And going to those schools, those kids know from the time that they go to middle school, they know what college they're going to. They know what they want to do. They have a system in place that cultivates them to go from middle school to high school to college to be successful. These kids don't have anybody talking in their ear telling them, hey, you can do it. So when they walk through those doors, they are walking in and not having any clue of what's next. So for me, I wanted to go to a place where I can go and pour myself into those students, if that makes sense. I think I may have lost you here. All righty. Hello there.
Hey, sorry about that. That's what happens when you're live, right? So
Yeah, no problem at
we're
all.
storming. Yeah, we're storming here in Houston, so we're having some
Okay,
internet
got you.
connection issues. So, but we were talking about self-esteem, and we were talking about, what that looked like for you, and why it was important for you to be at a place where you would represent your students.
Gotcha. So I wanted to work in this type of environment because these kids, that's what they need most. The word, if I could say one word that I thought my students need the most, I would say hope, because they don't have that voice in their ear. Most of our kids, they come from single parent homes, and their mom is working two jobs. So when they're going home, there's not anyone there pushing them and giving them that hope for their future. Most of our kids, they're just trying to get through that day or that week. And I could go to a different school district where you have way more resources, way more money, but I don't feel like those kids need hope because they have that strong support system. And don't get me wrong, I didn't. I had a good support system as well. But even in having good support system, it was things that I within myself that I had to kind of go through as a kid. But going through that process and understanding, that it's really hope, that's really believing in yourself. It's having those people in your ear, pushing you in that right direction. And those are these my students don't. The majority of my students don't have that. And if you don't have it, all they want to do after high school is get a job and help their family. So
Right.
that esteem, it needs to be established. They need somebody giving them a vision of something bigger than the city of Forest Park, where my school is, or the Clayton County, or even Georgia. But there's an entire world out there. So giving them that hope and telling them, like, you can get out of here. And I don't think, in today's society, you don't have a lot of young African American males that are having that influence. Like you were saying earlier, it's so easy to find that negative stuff. I mean, it's
Mhm.
everywhere. Sometimes it is very entertaining, but you need someone in the classroom that they're seeing every day that's speaking life over them, that's speaking hope over them.
Right, right, right. You mentioned parents, and one thing that I've always said is um I believe that fundamentally, I'm a parent, you're a parent. Parents want the best for their children, by and large. I think that all parents want to see their children achieve and our children to do just a little bit better than us, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, I believe that for most parents. But one thing I know as a parent who was raising my four children in a household where much of the time it was just me, um, schools don't always give parents grace. They
Hmm.
don't always,
Yeah.
especially like right about now, school's getting ready to start. You see the memes going up, and parents, it's your responsibility to do this, and it's not my job to do X, Y, and Z, and this, that, and the third. And it goes both ways. I
Yeah.
think that there's some parents who have unrealistic expectations of teachers, and some teachers who have unrealistic expectations of parents. Um, but I also know the teacher who contractually at 3:20, their day is over, they're going home. Kid is failing, they not calling. You know, child comes to school, clothes are dirty, they ain't asking. Kid is, begging for 3 and 4 lunches, they're not concerned. You're wearing a shirt that says more than a teacher. So I
Hmm.
want to give you an opportunity
Yeah.
to define that for yourself and tell us why you wear the shirt, what that means to you, and what does that mean for your students to define yourself as more than a teacher?
Yeah. You gave me a lot there. Um, I'll start with what you said. Teachers and parents. It
Mhm.
is it is it is very important for parents to be involved. But the reality, of course, there's a perception, there's a expectation, but then there's a reality. And the reality is, if you're a single mom and you have 4 kids, you're not going to be the majority. They're not going to be involved. When my kids come to my class, I take it upon me like this. These are my children, and I want to, I know that the influence that they're going to have is they're going to be at home for most of the time. So there's a way that students think, there's a way they act that come from their parents. But when they come to my class, I have an opportunity to sow seeds into them, and throughout a semester to water those seeds, and then 4 years to see something produce in them. And I believe I'm more than a teacher, because for me, teaching is the door that's open for me to be a father figure, to be a friend, to be a counselor. Now, I'm a counselor more than I am a teacher. You can to be a therapist, to be an advocate, to be a voice, ears to listen, to be a voice of wisdom. So teaching is just a door. I know I am a teacher by title, but I don't. If you can understand, I don't teach. I'm there for them, to inspire them, to help them. So of course it comes with the territory, but I look at it as teaching is just a door that God has opened for me to really help them more than the classroom. Because the fact of the matter is, and obviously you're an adult, you're not going to remember any of this stuff from high school, nor are you going to remember the people from high school. You're not. But what you are going to remember and what you can take are the people that inspired you and believed in you. As a as a 35-year old male, there are teachers that I remember in high school, and I don't remember anything they taught me. There's teachers I remember in elementary and middle school, and it's not because of anything they taught me, but I remember them more so because they gave me hope, they believed in me, and they told me I can do it, and they gave me second chances. So I know I'll be remembered in these kids' lives, not because of teaching them business, but because of the talks that we have, in between classes, or even I won't even teach. We'll just have a discussion that day, and let's talk about something, what's going on in the news, and tie it into themselves and how that affects them. And so it's teaching is just a door for me. So that's why I call myself more than a teacher.
Man, I love it. I love it. And you're right. Last year I had brunch with my eighth grade English teacher.
Oh wow,
And
yeah,
I'm a little bit older than you. And she and I are Facebook friends. I'm Facebook friends with one of my
wow,
eighth grade math teachers.
wow,
Um, I stay in contact with a lot of the people who poured into me, and not just educationally. The first teacher who told me I could write, and the teacher
yeah,
who let me sit in their classroom and
exactly.
have
Invent,
lunch. I was that awkward student, and
yeah,
didn't have the cool sneakers or knew the song. So you're right. These are the things that students remember. We remember those teachers who made it easy to be yourself,
exactly,
that
exactly.
made it okay for you not to have to mask, and not to have to worry about certain things. And so kudos to you for being that person,
Absolutely.
to
Thank you. Thank you.
so many people. You are
Yeah.
going to be the teacher that's remembered. And I was in eighth grade in 1992. So the internet didn't exist, and that stuff wasn't out there. But now you're on social media, right? And so
Mhm.
tell us how you said you talked about starting this Instagram page. Tell us how you got there, who comes up with the content, what happened.
And that's a crazy story. I mean, most people don't realize this story, and it just shows you, the power of just being authentic. So I want to say it was March 2023 is actually when we started the Instagram page.
Mm.
And we again, I was, my students started. It's like, Miss Dallas, you gotta get on Instagram. You're old, you got this Facebook thing. Just get you on Instagram. I was like, all right, let's take some pictures and let's do it. And
Only if they knew. 35. You said you're 35?
yeah, I'm not, I mean that's
Yeah,
young, but
you old already? Okay.
for them I'm like 60, But I remember being that age and seeing someone 30, I'm like, you are old, as at that age. I'm like, I'm young, So they started it, and we took some pictures, and that was it. And then maybe like 2 weeks later, I had this idea. Hey,
Mhm,
let's actually make a video, because I
mhm,
used to make videos in college with my friends, like funny videos. I
mm,
I, I enjoy it, but nothing like just some videos. So we made this video, and we're in the school, so obviously it gets passed around, and the
mhm,
kids are like, "That was pretty cool, Mr. Dallas." So I'm like, "All right, cool." So I was like, you know what? Let's keep this up, because there's our mindset was there's so much negativity on Instagram, on social media. Though it's
mhm,
entertaining, it's there's not a lot of positive things. I
mhm,
said, guys, let's start showing people what it's like being in this class, because everything that you see, it happens. Nothing is fabricated. Some of those names are a little fabricated, but it's stuff that it's my perspective. I think the first video was my expectation, reality. My expectation was the kids were going to be mean and hate coming to school and cuss me out, but the reality was actually like coming to my class.
mhm,
So we just kept doing it. So I think like every 2 months I'll post a video. And then December 2023, we went around, we had an idea. Hey, these guys, you kids use these lingo like twin, which means like, your
mhm,
friend, and
mhm,
drip, which means you dress nice. So all this lingo. So let's go around, let's record all the teachers. Let's record all the teachers using your lingo. And so we went around, we did that. And then it just, the video just started, you know, When it got to like 2,000 views, we were like, oh, and then it
Mm.
just kept going. Then I remember when it got to 60,000 views, it was
Yeah.
like, it was the talk of the school.
That was
And then
lit.
I know, right? Christmas break happens and I'm in Florida, and then it's like 100,000, 200,000. And then all of a sudden my followers, I'm watching them. So I'm like at 5,000 followers. And
Mm.
you have to realize in December 2023, I think we were at 600 followers.
Hmm.
And then it just starts like circulating, and then the followers grow. And then I had another video with the girls were acting like, like teenage girls, like my man and all this stuff. So I posted that one, and then
Hmm.
from there it just blew up. And so it's crazy because if people that understand social media, it doesn't happen like that. You don't just go from 600 followers to 200,000 followers in a month. And I think we're at 1.2 million in less than what, 8 months. And I'm
Wow.
yeah, and it's extraordinary. But I kept saying this is why we're doing. We do this because we want to show people a side of teaching that a teacher that loves doing it and students that love doing it, and it relates to everyone. If you've ever been in the classroom, it relates to you. If you're a student, it relates to you. If you teach kids, so everything. I think that's why people love it so much, because it's nostalgic. It's real. It's relatable. It's authentic, and it's very funny. It's very entertaining, and
Hmm.
and it just keeps blossoming. So to answer your other question, I come up with the ideas, but I'll come up with the vision. Hey guys, I want to do a video where how teenage boys act, and then
Mm.
we'll sit down and I'll say this, and then they'll give me all the ideas, and then I'll say, okay, we can't use that because that's inappropriate, and we'll just
Mhm.
brainstorm for a couple of minutes, and then we record, and it's not like a it's not like a team of 50 people. It can be one kid. We sit down and have an idea. Let's do our last video was the little trim with the balloon pops. It's funny. So how can we make this? How can we make this into the classroom? And we'll be
Mhm.
like, and we'll sit down and we'll do it that way. And that's really how we do it. And we make it authentic. We don't act, because to me it's not acting, because this is how you act every day. I just want you to say what you just, and we'll be in class and somebody will say something. And I'll say, okay, I need you to say that again. Just say it how you say it, and we record it. And it's like that. There's no special cameras. It's just a phone. We bought a microphone to get clearer sound, and
Mhm.
it's there wasn't a secret recipe for us. We just wanted to show people that, and I love it because my students are seeing, okay, you don't have to go online and show your body. You don't have to go and flash money. Of course, they're gonna do it anyways, but you don't have to follow the trends or follow the leader or do what everyone else is doing. If you are
Mhm.
yourself and you show something positive, authentic, why can't you be successful? Why can't it turn into something great? And that's really what I love about it, is that part there, because it's who we are, and it's positive, and it's of course we have to throw some curveballs every now and again, but the kids
I
love
mean, it's interesting though because it, Mob United and Berhanu Dallas have so much in common. It's really
it. Yeah,
interesting
exactly.
because
Yeah,
when you are genuine, when you are organic, when you are, honest about what your intentions are, you can grow exponentially in that way. And that's exactly how Mob United came to fruition, right? One person's feelings and one person's idea and wanting to show something different got us to where we are now 8 years later, got you to
absolutely.
where you are 8 months later, got us to that space and place where we are even able to just have this conversation. Did you have to get permission for your students to be
Yeah,
on Instagram with you?
yeah. So we have parent permission slips that the students sign
Mhm.
that just basically says, because obviously some of the comments can be a little inappropriate. So I try to catch those and delete them. But we just don't want
Okay.
parents know that this is our intentions. We're gonna post this on TikTok and on Instagram. So do we have your, because they're
Mhm.
all, if you're under 18, you have to get the permission from the parents. So do we have your
Right.
permission? This, and but the thing is, because it's so positive, my administration, they're so on board. My principal, all my sister principals, I mean, they love it because again, it's positive. No one, as long as it's staying that direction, there's not a problem, you know. And of course, we're not like taking a whole bunch of class time doing it either. You know, I mean, it's not a movie set. We do it once a week. So so they have no problem. And the parents love it. I mean, at graduation in May, most all those kids that were in those previous skits, a lot of them graduated. So at
Mhm.
graduation, just being able to see the parents, they're like, "Oh, that's Mr. Dallas," thank you, because again, it's positive, and the kids love being exposed, and the parents love seeing their kids out there in a positive way. So the communities is so much support. And that was my biggest thing, because I'm like, man, all these people are seeing us. When I got back to school, I was nervous, and then we were posting, it was just blowing
Mhm.
up. I'm like, man, what's going to happen? And the support that we get from the community, from police officers off I'm in the city of Forest Park, from people in grocery stores, it's the community, just really everyone, the parents, the faculty, the staff, everyone loves it. Even the county, Clayton County, we have visitors come from the corporate office, and they're like, "Oh, you're the teacher. Thank you for what you do." And so that really it motivates me to keep going.
I have to keep going back. We have 5 pillars, and one of our, like I said, biggest pillars is change perceptions. And
Yeah.
um we have the Protect Them campaign, and we have the Grace campaign, and it really centers around um seeing our Black boys and men just in their pure form, seeing them as who they are and watching them grow, make mistakes, get back up, change their direction, be horrible students and go on to be great teachers. It's
Yeah.
all of
Yep.
those stories. So it really is it's heartwarming to hear things like the police come to you
Yeah.
because this
Can I tell you a story?
you had, to start televising your classroom
Yeah.
is protecting students. It really is. Whether you think of it that way or not, you're making those faces recognizable, and
Mm.
those faces are recognizable with a smile on their face, and they're being seen in classrooms, they're being seen as students, as children.
Yeah.
We know that our kids are adultified. You said you're 6'2", 6'4",
6'4".
as a tall black dark man. I can only imagine when you went through puberty, got hair on your face, you probably were perceived to be a lot older than what you were.
Mhm.
So like you're in this situation where you are not only giving students an outlet, right? You're not just um allowing them to have fun in school, but you're covering them without even knowing it,
Absolutely. That's a really good
because
perspective. Yeah.
they're in a community where they go into a grocery store. Now they're the funny kid on, Mr. Dallas's video, not the
Yeah.
kid who
Yeah.
shot and that I have to follow.
Yeah.
They are, walking down the street coming from a basketball game, and it's dark outside, and this might not be their neighborhood. They're not the kiddo who's casing the joint, but they are in fact the kiddo. Oh, I remember you. You were in one of those funny videos about the funny
Yeah.
names, or
Absolutely. Well, the kids
you were
love
doing
that.
a it
Yeah.
changes perception and really the outlook of who they are, and it changes relationship, because if a police officer comes up to one of your 16, 17-year-old 6'4" basketball playing black young men, and that police officer is smiling at him and saying, I remember you, it
Mhm.
automatically changes how I feel about law enforcement. And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
that's huge. It's huge. What if somebody did that for Trayvon Martin? What if
Mhm.
that somebody did
Yeah.
that for Jordan Edwards? What if somebody did that for Mike Brown? Like, what if somebody did that for all of these, for Ahmaud Arbery, right? Like, what if somebody changed how those young Black men were viewed? And you're doing that. You are doing that. So
Awesome.
it's so much more than just, yeah, we're having fun. These kids are loving to learn. You are truly providing a safe space beyond the
Yeah,
four walls of your
I
classroom.
never
So,
thought of it like that.
you
That's
know,
awesome.
I applaud you for that, because it didn't have to be that way. So many of these students go home to parents not being home, like you said, working one or two jobs, not being able to make parent teacher conferences. Graduation might have been the first time you met some of these parents.
Oh,
Um,
for sure, for sure.
yeah, that are invested in their children, but just don't have the opportunity or time, and you are providing them safety that their parents can't provide them in those moments. So, you know you talked about the administration. How did they receive that very first video that went out, that very first idea? I want to give teenage boys and girls the microphone. That by itself is scary. That by itself is scary. You giving teenage boys and girls in 2024 a live mic. So,
Yeah, yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, it's
when you
funny.
had the idea, what did the administration say to you?
The funniest thing, most people say, "Hey, when are you gonna put me in a video?" That's that. It's everyone, and that's the world we live in. But I wouldn't be able to do that had I not built those relationships for those first 7 years. And if I was a first year teacher doing this, I don't think it would have worked that way. So because this is not something that it's not something I dreamed of, or not something that I conceptualized. Like, I'm going to be this social media influencer, and I'm going to teach to make this. It's very organic. I teach. I love teaching. I love my students, and so my reputation was already there was already a foundation before any of this started. So they knew that Mr. Dallas is this teacher that is here for the kids. So anything that comes after that is it's not a part of who I am. It's just an added part of it.
Mhm.
So of course, the question is, hey, when are you going to do a video with me? So that's the question most teachers say. Hey, when can I get in the video? So that's pretty much it.
Your parents, you know, kid that self-described as bad. I don't call kids bad. I don't think children are
Yeah,
bad,
yeah.
but self-described as bad, always in trouble. I'm assuming, you got a few phone calls home. What do they say now?
My dad, when I graduated college, he said, "I'm coming to make sure that this is real, because there ain't no way, ain't no way this boy, ain't no way this boy graduated college." And then your mom is always going to say the same thing. I always knew. I always knew. I always knew. I just from the time I was pregnant with you, God told me this and that. And this. And mom's always gonna. She's always in support. Their baby. You know, my dad was like, hey, "There ain't no way. Let me come to make
Uh,
sure that this is
her
real."
only boy.
Yeah, but now they're just, it's hindsight is 2020. So in those times, growing up,
Mhm.
being trying to be I remember one time I told my dad, I went home, I said, "Daddy, I want to be a class clown." He took his belt off and
He wore you out. Huh?
but now they're saying, you've always been funny, but when I was trying to be
Mhm.
funny, I got in trouble. So it's that was yes, son. You've always been, and
Mhm.
I guess I have been. I was doing it for the wrong reasons. Like I was using that funny to benefit myself. Now I'm using it to benefit others. And I know this is like a side note, but I think
Mhm.
that's kind of where people go wrong, is they use their gift for
Right,
themselves when
right.
their gift is really to be given to other people. But yeah, they say, yeah, we kind of already, you've always been funny, so it's kind
Mhm.
of to them, it's not. I mean, it is. Don't get me wrong. It's big, but it's not like, but how I'm doing it is not the surprise. But what's happening, that's like, it's like a wow. It's like how, like, this is amazing. But we've always known that we've always known you to be a funny person, if that kind of makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And you said you used your gift for yourself, and I would like to say that you used your gift to protect yourself.
Wow.
Because um I hear you and I listen to you, and I remember the student that I was, and I remember being in some of the same situations that you were in as you were growing up. And it's easy to isolate and point out the young man who's different, right? It's easy to say you're bad and you're the class clown and all of that stuff. And what I think the profundity in what it is that you do is you take those things, and rather than isolate them, label them, villainize them,
Mm.
you perpetuate them in a positive light. And you take those things that are innate in your students and you flip them the way somebody didn't do that for you for a
That's
very
good.
long time.
I like where you're going. Absolutely.
And so rather than say you used your gift to help yourself, you used your gift to keep yourself from being hurt. Like
Yeah.
that was
Wow.
your shield. And
Yeah.
many students have that. And so I hear you, and you keep saying it's big, but it's not big. It's no, it's huge. It's huge because what you don't see is the light that you ignite on the inside. And I'm gonna plant a seed right now to say that in 20 years you're gonna meet a Kimberly. You're gonna meet one of those students that comes back to you and truly tells you what your presence meant in their life. So don't sell yourself short, because you're giving to your community so much more than what you realize in these funny shorts that you're doing online. And as a marketing business teacher, you're teaching them business in the videos that you're making, and how they're you're teaching them marketing, you're teaching them all of this stuff, but you're teaching them to believe in themselves. You're teaching
Wow.
them
Wow.
that there is something more in them, despite what they don't have and who doesn't show up and who says what. Your classroom has become a safe place
Wow.
where a lot of students in Title I schools and students in inner city communities don't have that. And that means something. It means so much more than the Instagram video. Those videos will live on forever. We see so many of these videos where these kiddos. I think I watched one not too long ago where the little boy who was dancing on a chair just graduated from college. You don't even think
Oh
about that
yeah,
stuff,
I
right?
remember. Yeah.
They're like timeless, right? These kiddos
Yeah.
are now grown with kids, and we're still laughing at their memes that came out 20 years ago. So that will exist, and it will stay, but what you are giving them will change who they are forever. And um I remember I published the first little poetry book. I was 15 and I was pregnant, and I was in the 10th grade. Is getting ready to have my first kid. She's 30 now. And that teacher who told me I could write, that I had lunch brunch with a year ago, you
Wow.
know, we're
Wow.
talking 1993, right?
Yeah.
So this is these are the seeds that I can tell you. I grew up in Harlem, in inner city, in Title I schools. I can tell you firsthand that what you do matters.
Wow. Thank you.
And so when you talk about yourself, I want you to give yourself a little bit more credit. Not because you're boasting or prideful or, any of that, but because more than a teacher matters. It means something
Yeah.
when you're there past your contractual time at 3:30, when you're pulling kids to the side and having conversations with them, when you keeping a bar deodorant in your top drawer because shorty don't have
Hello.
it,
Yeah. Yeah.
like those are the things that matter.
Wow.
And so if I have an opportunity just to pour into you a little bit, um, please allow me to do that because it is so much bigger than just this moment. And as a Black father to 3-year-olds and a 7-year-old, who you are is going to profoundly and exponentially change your small universe and your sample set for the better. So kudos to you.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Kudos. Absolutely, absolutely. We're about 10 minutes out, and I want you to talk to the teachers. What do you have to say to them? It's a hard job. It's
Mm.
not
Yeah.
always rewarding. I enjoy teaching, but by trade, I told you I'm a nurse, and that's not always, you know, smiled upon. You meet some people at their worst times. I think teachers meet people at their worst times sometimes as well. That F you gave out and and those kind of things. Um, so what do you have to say to your counterparts about legacy and grace and what they should be giving to their students?
What I would say to teachers is if you can find one student, I know we have hundreds of kids that come in a school year. You can have 100 to 200 kids. And it's challenging having so many kids, but I've come to learn in my mind, I'm going to talk to all of them. I'm going to cast my net to all of them. But if I can get one kid
Mm,
that year, one kid that goes from, I'm not even saying good grades, but that goes from not believing themselves to believing themselves, then I've done something. I've done something. So we we teachers, we try to, the ones that care, we try to spread ourselves too thin because 15 aren't listening, but you got one kid that comes and asks you for help. And we look at the 15 that are, not bad. I hate saying bad, but that are a certain way. Or you can focus on that
mhm,
one student and pour into that one student. And once you have one, then it becomes two. And that two becomes three. That three becomes four. And
mhm,
that it grows. Because once that
mhm,
one student knows you care, that one student's going to tell somebody else. And it's just going to grow from there. So my message
mhm,
would be, if you can, each year, if you can find one student, I pray for one student every year. And if I'm not one, is now 10. But I asked for one kid at the start of the year, one kid that to be put in my class, so that one kid, I'm going to pour into that kid. And every year I always identify that one kid. And if you can focus on that, I know there's so much negativity around us, and it's very difficult to see that
mhm.
the light at the end of the tunnel. But that one kid could change your whole perspective, illuminate the whole class because you can't reach everyone. That was a very hard thing for me to understand because I tried to reach everyone, but you can't be effective reaching 100 kids, but you can
Right.
you can be effective if you find one kid. And that's all that matters because I know we live in a society where we want things to happen quick, or we want the quantity, but really the quality starts with one. And to get that one kid, it's really about caring. It's about caring for that kid and seeing. Teachers have to realize that every student is the way they are for a reason. No one's
Mhm,
born disrespectful. No one's born
mhm,
rude. No one's born with an attitude, but there's
mhm,
probably something going on at home. And
mhm,
what I would tell teachers, if you stop and ask those students, hey, like, who do you live with? They'll
mhm,
answer, and that will tell you so much about that kid. Um, you know, are you close to you? Like, what do your parents do for a living? And that
mhm,
will tell you everything you need to know about that kid. So those would be the two things. Find that one kid and really ask, like really get to know that student, who they are when they leave school, because who they are when they leave school is why they are was why they act the way they act when they come into school. I've learned
Right.
to do those two things, and I found my job 10 times more rewarding when I ask those questions and when I look for that one kid each semester. So that's what I would say to my teachers out there.
What would you say to ninth grade Berhanu?
I've asked myself that so many times. I would tell myself I wouldn't have anything deep to say. I would say, "Hey, look, just keep going. Like it'll be all right." That's all I would say, because I know myself in ninth grade. If I told myself that, I would know what it means. Like you'll be all right. Just keep going. That's. I wish I had something real like deep to say. I would just say, just keep going. Like it'll be okay. Because I felt within me like it's gonna get better, right? So that's all I would tell myself. I hope you were looking for a deep answer.
I was just curious, I listened to how you described yourself, so I wonder what you would say now at 35
Yeah.
to 14-year-old you.
Hey, buddy, just keep going. It's gonna get better. I promise you to
It
get
gets
better. That's what I would tell myself.
well, obviously you got the girl, so
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly. 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 Or I would just like, hey, look, this is your wedding photo. Keep going. And I'm like, I'm good. I'm good. But I said I wouldn't tell myself that, because then it would just, I was like, hey, just keep going. You got it.
How do you take care of you?
Basketball, movies, and I at once I go home, I don't bring work home. It's wife and it's kids.
Okay.
And I love playing basketball. I love watching movies with my wife. And then Sunday we go to church. So
Amen.
that's that I now I get a lot of phone calls from my kids, but I don't take work home, if that makes sense. But my wife, she's so involved with the kids, so we get calls from all the time. She loves being a part of it. So I guess I don't take work home, but I kind of do, because because the kids, they're some of our kids, we really have taken them into our lives, and they really like they call us their godparents. Um,
Okay.
I wish we could talk for 2 more hours, but that's how I take care of myself. I just have to. I love playing basketball, and I love spending time with my family. And I just leave the schoolwork at. I don't give homework, because if I give homework, that means I have to grade it at home. So I don't want homework. You guys don't get homework.
Amen. Listen, you needed to be my teacher. I love it. Well, Mr. Dallas, I want to thank you for your time. I so appreciate
Absolutely.
it. I want you to know that you are seen, and you are seen beyond just the humor in your videos. You are really truly seen for what it is that you are providing the community, what you're providing your students. Keep going.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
So, keep going. I hope to have an opportunity to catch up with you again, and just hear more wonderful stories about what it is that you're doing. But we are on the sidelines. Moms of Black Boys United are watching you just do all of the great and good things that you're doing in the community. So
I
thank you so
appreciate
much for sitting with me.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Have a good night.
All right. You too. Bye bye.